Story 1. My friend hit her husband in the face. They hadn't really discussed it beforehand. They got divorced 1 year later. Story 2. My friends did. She took a small amount with her finger and wiped it on his nose and mouth. He got angry and pushed her face into the cake. They are divorced. Story 3. I remember my stepdad doing this to my mom at their wedding. I could tell she was upset. I was 10. He was predictably a horrible person. She stayed with him for too long, but the universe took care of things by ushering him off this mortal coil through a heart attack. Story 4. His dad encouraged him to smash a cake into my face at a restaurant. It wasn't even a wedding. I never had one. We just had a ceremony by a justice of the peace when I was heavily pregnant. We did not last long after that. Story 5. My first husband tried to reconcile after we separated within a year, but it failed, and we divorced after a total of 5 years. My second husband asked me which flower I wanted for the cake and cut it so I could have the piece with the flower. We are celebrating our 9th anniversary this June. Story 6. I pleaded with him not to, and he did anyway, breaking my nose in the process. I had to wait 12 months to file for divorce and did so on our first anniversary. I am using a throwaway account because I know he stalks my main account. Story 7. Feeding each other cake symbolizes taking care of one another. While some people may enjoy the playful aspect of it, I felt it was a serious matter. How can I trust someone to take care of me and provide for me, and vice versa, if they cannot even pretend to do so symbolically right after making a lifelong commitment? I explained to my husband how I felt about this, and I made it clear that if he participated in that tradition, our marriage license would never be filed, no exceptions. We did not smash cake on each other and are still happily married 8 years later. This issue was not about money, makeup, or my dress. It was about trust. It's about trusting someone to care for you appropriately when needed, in sickness and in health. It's about being treated with respect and love, without anything held over your head. Story 8. My mother and stepfather agreed they wouldn't smash the cake at their wedding, but my sister was nearby encouraging my mom to do it. They looked at each other, nodded, and then smashed the cake in my sister's face. It was perfect. Story 9. I divorced her. I still recall the moment when she did it. I was upset. It shows a fundamental disrespect for your spouse when you do something like that. Story 10. My husband was horrified by the idea of the cake smash and the garter toss. We cut and fed each other cake, and it was very gentle and sweet. Over 10 years later, I wouldn't have done it any other way. Story 11. Our photographer suggested that we should smash the cake, but holding it in my hand and looking at my partner's face made it difficult for me to do so, especially since she said, "Do not smash the cake in my face." To compromise, I smashed it into my own face, covering my suit in raspberry sauce. We are still married, so I suppose it was the right decision. Story 12. I asked my husband not to. He laughed. My grandmother saw him and told him if he did, she would figuratively kill him. He didn't, thankfully. Story 13. We fed each other a bite of cake. We both have strong sweet tooths, and the smashing routine would have been seen as a waste of really good cake. We are approaching 38 years together. Story 14. My brother smashed the cake into his bride's face at both of his weddings. He is twice married and twice divorced, so it did not go well for him. Story 15. He promised not to smash it in my face, but he did it anyway. You can see in the video that I clearly said, "You mother." I got divorced 8 years later. Story 16. At one of my cousin's weddings, he smashed the cake into her face so hard that she needed help cleaning up. They are now divorced because he cheated on her with another woman. He is currently married and seems happier. She is also married and divorced. Story 17. He not only hit me with it, but also forced it as far up my nostrils as possible. It lasted 5 years, but those were absolute misery. I am grateful for the challenge, though, and I am happily single now, quite possibly forever. Story 18. 42 years and going strong. We approached life in a playful manner, which has defined our journey together. My best piece of advice? Know your spouse. If she does not want you to do something, especially if she explicitly tells you not to do it, do not do it. Ignoring her wishes sets a precedent for future decisions and can lead to trust issues. Best of luck to you and your spouse, no matter what choice you make. Story 19. We discussed it beforehand and both thought it was enjoyable. I didn't realize most people viewed it as a concern until years later because it didn't occur to me that anyone would do it without both individuals being happily aware of the joke. This year marks our 10th anniversary, and it has been a true delight being married. Story 20. I asked my ex-fiancé to promise he wouldn't, and he refused. This was one of many reasons it didn't work out. Story 21. Divorced. I specifically asked him beforehand not to do it. He literally rubbed it in my face and hair. I was furious. Story 22. I smashed the cake in his face, and then he challenged me to a sword fight, so I shot him with a Nerf gun. It was all prearranged with a music cue and everything. I am very happy 5 years later. Story 23. It was a gentle touch with the frosting on my finger, and I kissed it off. It will be a year this September 21st. Story 24. It's one thing to do the cake smash. It's another to do the cake smash after the wife explicitly asked the man not to, and he still did it. Story 25. My mom and stepdad did. They both agreed not to. Then they smashed the cakes into each other's faces at the same time. They were both horrible people, and it was a toxic relationship. Fights were so bad that blood was drawn and the police were called. She cheated on him with his brother, and one of my brothers is probably my uncle's child. He was cheating on her with her best friend and had a secret baby. I swear they tried to outdo each other's toxicity and managed to match the energy exactly. They divorced after 5 years. Story 26. I don't understand why this tradition exists in the first place. Let's embarrass the bride on her wedding day and possibly ruin her once-in-a-lifetime dress. Why? Story 27. I told my ex I didn't want cake smashed in my face, but he did it anyway. The relationship went downhill soon after, and our divorce was finalized 3 years later. I consider it one of the warning sign moments. Story 28. Still married with a beautiful child. He is my best friend. The only reason we did it is that when he experiences anxiety, he feels the urge to throw up. He happened to feel this way after the speeches and right before cutting the cake. As we were walking over, he leaned to me and whispered, "Can we smash it? If I put that in my mouth right now, I'm going to get sick." I replied that I understood. His face was filled with cake, and everyone laughed. He was able to calm down, and I got to lick the icing off my lips. Story 29. I told my husband this wedding wasn't that expensive. If you smash, I will divorce you. I didn't smash, and he didn't smash. We had a nice cake. Why would we want to ruin it and get cake on my makeup or his rented tux? We have been married for 36 years in July. Story 30. On my 21st birthday, I had my face pushed into the cake. I will never forget how oily and sticky my face felt until 4 hours later when I could finally wash it. That made me promise myself I would never do that to my wife. She, meanwhile, considered this entire cake-smashing deal to be ridiculous and pointless. 9 years and 1 son later, the no-smashing rule is probably one of the reasons why nothing has harmed our marriage. Story 31. On our wedding day, the photographer suggested a cake smash. My husband and I looked at each other and said no in unison. 11 years and still going strong. Story 32. I asked my husband not to smash the cake well in advance. He did it anyway, ruining my hair, makeup, and the lace overlay on my dress. I put on a brave face, then excused myself as quickly as possible to clean up and cry. At the time, I chided myself for overreacting. We divorced 18 years later for unrelated reasons. It took reading stories online for me to understand why I never got over the cake smash and why it upset me so much. Story 33. She asked me not to, and I had never even considered it. I was slightly disappointed that she thought I might, but I still didn't do it. Story 34. We said we wouldn't do it. My wife still tried, but I was able to eat it and avoid the face smashing. Then it was my turn. Everyone thought I would go all out. but I just booped her on the nose with the frosting. Story 35. My wife and I planned it, but we both ended up giving each other a small bite and a light, easily clean smear of icing. The whole experience felt disappointing when the moment arrived. Story 36. My wife took her slice of cake, carefully dabbed a bit of icing on the tip of my nose, pulled me in close, and kissed it off. We are still together 35 years later. Story 37. My ex-husband smashed our cake into my face after agreeing several times not to do that. He then dodged and blocked me when I tried to do it back. There was so much cake stuck to me that my sisters washed my face and dress while I cried in the bathroom during the reception. He was so disrespectful that I left him within a year and am still recovering from what he put me through. I'm now in a relationship with a woman, and my girlfriend of 2 years has shown me such a happy, healthy relationship that I didn't even know could exist. Story 38. My wife specifically asked me not to do it. I didn't do it. We are still together 24 years later. I don't know if those are directly linked, but perhaps being respectful and willing to listen helps. Story 39. I told him no cake in the face. He laughed it off, did it anyway, and I walked out before the frosting dried. If someone can't respect a simple boundary on the first day, what hope is there for the rest? Story 40. I assume smashing the wedding cake into my future wife's face is not appropriate. Why would that be a reasonable thing to do? Story 41. The relationship was one-sided after she smashed cake in my face. We divorced after nearly 12 years. Story 42. My husband and I discussed the cake beforehand. He refused to smash cake in my face and suggested I smash cake in his instead. He asked if he could kiss me afterward, to which I agreed. I'm glad he did, as that was the only cake I tasted at our wedding since my sister took it, along with the cupcakes, to her sister-in-law's birthday party the next day. We are still happily married. Story 43. My mother loudly begged me in front of our entire reception attendees to smash cake in my husband's face. It wasn't even an option for me. Despite not discussing it beforehand, why would I smash cake into someone's face that I love? Also, that cake was delicious and very expensive. My husband is a man of few words at times, but when we got home that night after our wedding, the first thing he said to me was, "Thank you for not smashing cake into my face. My parents do not have a great marriage, in case you were wondering." Story 44. I told my husband, "If you smashed cake in my face, I would walk out of the reception and you would never see me again." He asked, "Do you really think I would do that to you?" I replied, "No," and he didn't. He will be 7 months next week. Story 45. It is not about the cake. It is about ignoring your partner's feelings in front of everyone on the first day. Story 46. I chose not to hurt my wife and ruin her makeup on a very important day. Besides, I paid for it. It was very expensive. Story 47. My ex acted like he was going to, but he didn't. He thought he was funny, but he wasn't. He has done many things that he thinks are funny, but they are far from it. Hence, yes, we are divorced. Story 48. My girlfriend and I agreed to do a cute little boop on the nose with some frosting. I don't plan on pranking her. Story 49. It's good. We both did it gently. We just put a little piece of cake in our mouths. Felt special. It has been 34 years. Story 50. Smashing a cake is the worst trend I have encountered so far. I believe everyone who has been smashed by their partners has ended their relationship. Story 51. I turned my head and got cake in my ear. I have been married for 17 years this month. However, he will never stop hearing about the earring he broke. Story 52. My parents did not like overly extravagant cakes, but they enjoyed a little messy fun. They were together for 40 years and still would be, but my mom passed away. Story 53. I didn't need to be told or warned. I love and respect my wife too much to even consider doing it, and neither of us did. We are still happily married, approaching 30 years now. Story 54. I never heard of cake smashing until recently. We had a small wedding with family and guests. A family friend made our delicious cake. We had a cake-only wedding. My husband was due to deploy on a submarine a month prior to the wedding. We were going to get married at the courthouse, but my mom freaked out and almost drove off the road when I told her. She then turned the car around and headed straight for a fabric store where I chose a wedding dress pattern, fabric, and notions. I finished the dress a few days before the date. My husband wore his white uniform. He served 20 years with only 3 years of shore duty. The worst assignment was at RadCon in Groton, Connecticut. We moved 13 times, relocating from coast to coast and overseas. It will be 38 years at the end of May. Story 55. No cake smash. We ran off to get married, enjoyed burgers afterward, and attended an amazing concert that night. We have been happily married for over a decade now. Story 56. My ex-wife unexpectedly smashed the cake in my face, thinking it was funny. My current wife, if we had a cake, would have fed it to me gently and lovingly. Story 57. My older cousin experienced this with her husband. He was laughing, but she was not and was very angry. You can imagine that does not bode well. She obviously tried to retaliate, but she looked like she wanted to harm him. He noticed and dodged. He was held still by 2 of her friends while she forcefully kicked the first tier of the cake into his face, screaming at him. I think that every time he blows his nose to this day, a bit of cake comes out. I am unsure if they are divorced, but I might ask. Story 58. Small frosting drops on both our parts. No one wanted a cake smash. Still together 18 years later. Love my partner to bits. Story 59. We didn't smash cake. We fed cake to each other with our fingers. It was quite adorable. Our 32nd anniversary was last month. He is the most marvelous human being I've ever met and certainly the greatest man. Story 60. I was nice. My wife was upset because she knew I would get in trouble if I got her wedding dress, which was custom-made by her mother, messy. Plus, she knew she could get away with it. We are still married over 20 years later. Story 61. Smashing the cake seems strangely violent. I have never seen it done at a wedding I attended. I understand something gentle like playfully touching your spouse's nose with some frosting, though. Story 62. We both playfully added a little frosting on the nose. We have been married for 5 years and are going strong. Story 63. It's insane to me that people would purposely humiliate their life partner, especially after all the makeup and effort that goes into the wedding day. In college, a guy I was dating who was addicted to steroids threw me a surprise party. I felt so special until, while blowing out the candles, he shoved my face into the cake and humiliated me in front of everyone. It was traumatic and I'm not proud of this, but while fleeing, I keyed his car on the way out. I'm autistic, which makes the whole thing even more awful. I trusted another person and thought I was being celebrated instead of subjected to this public humiliation that still scars me to this day. Someone doing that to their bride is abusive. A loving partner should not want to humiliate and defile their lover. Story 64. We both did, but it wasn't a full-on impact. We have been married for 17 years now and are still happily married. Story 65. Perhaps I am an outlier here, but my husband and I agreed to smash the cake in each other's faces because we both enjoy this tradition. I believe this should be fully consensual between both parties. If one partner requests not to participate, disrespecting their wishes on your wedding day is not a good start. We have been together for 10 years and happily married for 3. Story 66. I always wondered why the bride and groom smash cake into each other's faces. When I was younger, they would simply cut a piece and each try to eat some. Story 67. I placed a dot of frosting on my wife's cheek and then licked it off. We are approaching 13 years of marriage. Story 68. He tried, but we chose cake pops instead of actual cake. It didn't make a mess, but I was still frustrated. We are divorced. Story 69. Who wants to pay hundreds of dollars on hair and makeup just for it to be ruined? Now half your makeup is gone, and your photographer won't always fix that in Photoshop. Story 70. I didn't grow up with cake smashing for birthdays. We didn't waste food. I don't see the point of the joke other than bringing someone down a notch in their best clothes, which is inherently disrespectful. It's also foolish. Are people pretending to be toddlers? Even booping with frosting. What is the purpose of getting sticky stuff all over? Story 71. I remember people shouting for my husband to do it at our wedding, but he did not. My friend's husband did it at their wedding, but they divorced after 2 children in 6 years. We refer to him negatively in our group chat. Story 72. My sister's husband did this. A few years later, he molested me when I was 14. They eventually divorced. Story 73. Is this just an American thing and only in certain cultures? I've never seen it before at a wedding in the UK. How common is it, and did it become popular from a film or something? It seems like a completely immature move, and regardless of how much is spent on hair and makeup, it shows a lack of respect for the person they are marrying. Unless it's done as a fun couple activity, but every time I hear it described, it sounds like a power move and is just awful. Story 74. My father smashed the cake in my mother's face in 1950. If looks could kill, he would have been dead on the floor. They were married for 50 years, and I believe he lived to regret that incident. She ruled his life. However, he was lost without her when she died. Story 75. I don't remember if we discussed it beforehand, but my husband accidentally hit me in the face and got it in my eye. I was so upset. We have been happily married for almost 20 years now, but it was a bit rough in the early years. We had a lot to work through. When I think back on my wedding day, it doesn't bring me much joy, but the life we've built since then does. I believe we are somewhat rare in that, in many ways, the odds were stacked against us, but we found an amazing couples therapist. We worked through many of our challenges and have created a fulfilling life. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.